Good morning. It's Deacon Don again. On December 30th, 2020. As we come to the end of this difficult year, I'm going to avoid the temptation of trying to paint a rosy picture for the new year, even though in my heart and in my prayers, I hope and pray that it will be the best year that we've ever experienced. But I want to avoid the rosy picture for a reason. Because I want to share a thought about the fact of pain that results from the lack of hope that seems to be so prevalent in our world. But I also want to share with you what we need to do about it. There's a story that I want to read to you, and please forgive me, I am going to read it, but I don't want to miss anything in trying to translate it. And it's a story about a conversation that a popular talk show host had on his radio program. And it was about the book that Tom Brokaw wrote called The Greatest Generation. The host had just finished reading it, and it was filled with all the inspiring stories of the World War II generation. And the host had taken the position that the current generation of young adults, those in their 20s, are for the most part a bunch of whiners, he said. He said that while they were constantly whining and moaning about the difficulty of their lives, in fact, when compared to the hardships faced by their grandparents' generation, they actually got it easy. Their grandparents had endured truly devastating events like the Great Depression and World War II. True. But the current crop of young adults, he concluded, doesn't even have a clue about real hardships. Once he had finished his monologue, a self-professed member of this younger generation of adults called in to offer a different perspective on his generation. This person was bright and extremely articulate, and this 23-year-old caller said that while the Great Depression and World War II certainly created terrible hardships for the people who faced them, that he nonetheless believed that his generation faced an even greater hardship. The talk show host kind of just snickered and said, "And what exactly would that be?" And the caller said, "We suffer from the loss of hope." He said that his experience indicated that many of today's young adults had simply stopped believing that things were going to get better. They didn't expect to live as well as their parents had lived. They weren't expecting a brighter future. They had simply given up hope. Wow, what a terrible thing. He said that the Great Depression, as terrible as it was, in many cases brought families together as they worked side by side in the hope of saving their families. True. Most of his friends, he said, grew up in families in complete disarray and have given up the hope of ever having a real family experience of their own. Well, that's devastating. He said World War II was a terrible event that obviously cost thousands of America's young people their lives. True. Then he said, and even though they knew the risks, they still enlisted voluntarily by the millions because they saw it as a cause worth dying for. Most of those in his generation, he said, can't imagine anything worth dying for, and they're committing suicide in record numbers because they can't imagine anything worth living for either. He said, "Sir, the Great Depression and World War II created terrible hardships, but I submit to you that the greatest hardship of all is living without hope." You know, this story really affected me. See, the story also made me reflect a bit on this past year, and it's been a tough one for everyone, both young and old. And I realized that no one has an inside edge on pain or suffering or fear. It's felt by everyone. We have all lost loved ones and friends this year, or know of people who have. It's been devastating. Jobs and income and the ability to even pay the rent have all been compromised beyond what anyone at this time of year last year imagined. Fear has engulfed us and has taken much of our happiness away. All of us. But conversely, the joy is that no generation has a lock on wisdom or talent or compassion. These are gifts that God has given to all of us with the intent we share them with everyone that we meet. And that, brothers and sisters, makes me smile. So the message today from me to you is that all of us are responsible to share the word of hope with everyone. It's not just the job of some, but it's the job of all of us, especially us Catholic Christians. Because if anyone in our society is denied hope, it's denied to all of us, because all of us are affected by it. And that's important to remember. Jesus came to us this Christmas with the intent to share the light of hope, to share himself. The light that comes from a child in a dark stable on a cold and lonely winter's night. Jesus tells us all through the ages, and it's particularly noted in this gospel from John, which says, I am the light of the world. He who follows me does not walk in the darkness, but will have the light of life. Brothers and sisters, we need to share this light, this hope. We need to share with people our God, Jesus Christ, our light and our hope. So that is what I'm bringing with me into the new year. And that gives me hope. I ask all of you to do the same to everyone that you meet. I offer you and hope for you a very happy, healthy, and prosperous new year. And with God leading us, I believe that we'll get there. Have a good day.